Okay, guys, welcome to another Funky Marketing podcast. This is the podcast where I'm hosting good people who are doing good things for the good people or for themselves. So, entrepreneurs, marketers, business owners, even designers. And we are talking about the things that they are doing, things that are helping themselves or other companies achieve some great results. So today I have a pleasure to host, I think I'm going to pronounce the name right, Irit Levi.
Yeah.
And basically she's somebody who is making your life easier. I will just say that and I will let her tell the rest.
So thanks. It's really great to be here. Yeah, basically the idea is to help, my idea is to help people simplify their workflows. Their workflows can be based on, it could be marketing workflows, obviously, but also their day-to-day workflows. How do you process that? Where do you update? Do you update your CRM? To automate as much as you can to make it simple that you don't have to spend so much time on these mundane tasks that are repetitive and they become over and over again. And the thing is, people don't even realize they're doing it until their list is like, 100 or 200 lines in an Excel sheet, and they're like, wait a minute, what do I do with this, right? So yeah, and it's really interesting. I love working with the smaller companies, the companies that are sort of just starting out, and then they don't realize that there's so much that they can do to improve and make things easier. And they're like, no, but I only have 1 or 2 customers. But then they have this growth spurt, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, where did all this come from? And so it's really fun to watch that.
Yeah, and I have a question before we dive deep into that and get into some specific things. So, what's your background? I'm always interested how the people end up with doing automation, email marketing, all those kind of things. What's the background and how did you actually get there?
So it's interesting. I worked in high tech years ago, and I stopped. I worked for like 6 years when there's the big high tech bubble, the .com bubble, and then I stopped. I managed a bookstore for like 15 years, and it was great. I really had fun doing that. And then I took a break. I had my kids, and when I wanted to come back, I started to work for this startup company, and I started with writing there, but I quickly became a product owner, and I was doing a lot of the setup for their site. And doing that, I learned a lot of tools and a lot of software that I needed to use. And I fell in love with Zapier and with ActiveCampaign and with all these applications that are automation based. And I was really good at it, like my vision is different. Like I see a flow chart, and my eyes light up. I'm like, oh yeah, we could do that, and then we could split it off over here. And so then after a few years, like after 5 years, it was time to say goodbye. You grow and you change, and it wasn't a good fit. And then I left. I gave notice a month before COVID hit. So I gave notice. I had my last month at work, and 4 days after I was no longer working, we went into lockdown here. And I was looking for a job, and then I said, no, I don't want to work for someone else. I was ready to sort of work for myself and create automations, doing stuff. At the time, actually, I was thinking of doing project management. But then about a week or 2 after I started my business, I was like, but people need automations, and I love doing automations. And so it was just like 2 weeks in, I think my site went live, and then 2 weeks later, I called my copywriter. I said, okay, we have to change the site. We have to change stuff because I'm going into a deeper niche. And haven't looked back since. It's been a few months, and more like half a year, and it's been great.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm talking to a lot of people, and I'm seeing that so many of them have started their own like entrepreneur's journey this year. Like usually it's not after the COVID strike, but like let's say since January, most of them. I mean, I started my own business. I registered in January, so I'm kind of in the same group, and I like it. I like that so many people have now that entrepreneurship mindset, and they're just going into that journey. So let's try to help some of them, and like let's say what's the situation when you're just starting a business. I mean, if you already have like a client or two before you started, so you have some kind of leverage, but to get ahead of the work you need to hire some people. So basically from the start you usually don't have the workflows in place, so you need to come up with the way the things work, how it's going from the top to the bottom, and basically because you don't have that, things are moving but the team is usually disorganized, and it's causing for your team to kind of be late with some when it comes to the time of delivery of the projects or those kind of things. So let's see how what will you do when you come to that kind of organization. If they reach out to you, what do you say to them? What's the first thing, or can you help them at all?
So the first thing I ask is what tools they have in place, because I like to build based on tools that they have in place. And I'm assuming their budget is nil. Basically, I'm assuming they have no budget. So I'm looking at first to see what tools they have. If they're paying for anything, we can use that and we can leverage that. And if not, what are the free tools out there that they can work with? So in the example that you gave, where they have team members and things are late and things are not in place, I would look for a project management tool for them that works with their workflow. There are some really good project management tools out there. Some are free, some cost money, some have a free plan, but in order to see the bells and whistles, you need to upgrade to a paid plan. The beauty of having a project management tool, especially if you're paying for the bells and whistles, is that it will automate a lot of the processes. So you build a template, an outline of what working with a client looks like. Who does the first task? What's the second task? Who's responsible for that? How long do you give for that? You build the workflow within the project management tool and you assign it to people. And this is like a template for them, and you give due dates. And the beauty of these tools is that many of them, not all of them, but many of them have the option to give you a notification. Hey, this task was completed, or this is now on your desk, right? So it's on your plate and you have to do it. So it's very specific to each company and what works for them. But in general, a project management tool will help you make sure those deliverables are coming in on time. And sometimes the problem is actually not with the teamwork. Sometimes it's a matter of defining, like giving the client an unrealistic time frame. If you tell the client this is going to be ready within 2 weeks, but your process is 3 weeks and you're not aware of it, you're never going to be on time, right? So you have to know how long it takes you to create that deliverable. What is your internal process before you commit to something for a client? So that's maybe the first step, is making sure you have that knowledge internally of how long it takes. Is it harder? Is it easier? And you have to fluctuate with that, because if you're not flexible with the time frames, you're never going to be on time for your clients, right? You have to take that into consideration.
I see that as so many companies are actually setting up the timeframes themselves. Usually in like, I don't know, except in like performance marketing, when you have like some strict deadlines and you have other things. But in most cases, the agency or the company that's working with the client is setting up the goals, based on overall goals. I mean, not the goals, but the time that's dedicated for the project. And I just remember a problem that I'm seeing. It's that usually the CEO or a project manager who's depending on who's running the project, they are coming up with a shorter time of delivering the project, because they want to make their processes, teams, and everything faster. And sometimes it's totally unrealistic based on the team they have. So that kind of balance is something that they need to have, but usually they don't kind of think about it. It's just like we're going to do it in that way just because they are trying to be faster and look like better in the eyes of the client, but not looking at the team that they have.
Yeah, so I don't think they look better in the eyes of the client because they may look better short term versus long term. So short term, I'm promising them, mountains and valleys, and then crickets when it comes to real time delivery time. So I think it's also building a plan with milestones of deliverables. So if you know that you need to get the project done, the client wants to launch, let's say, for Christmas, but you know that in order to have that, you need 2 weeks of testing. You have to build from the end back. So you need 2 weeks of testing, plus you need another week for fixing the first testing. So that's already 3 weeks in there. So you need to build backwards from the final deadline and create milestones along the way so that if there is something that's holding you back, and you can recognize it in time and raise the flag in time.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, it's just their perspective that they want to look better in the eyes of the client,
Yeah.
but if they are not focusing on the big picture and the overall goal, it's not going to happen. And okay, so but what's the process when we have like the mid-size business, actually the small ones that is growing? So it means that they are hiring people, that a lot of things are changing. So what's the starting point? Is it the data? Is it where they want to go? Or what's your starting point when you start to work with those kind of things?
So that really changes, and it's very unique per customer, per client, per company, because it depends why you're hiring, why you're expanding. If you're expanding because you have more work coming in, it needs to be very clear what tasks you're delegating and what you're keeping on your own plate. And I find that point is oftentimes the point of conflict. When you're hiring someone, it needs to be very clear what task, what position you're hiring them for, and what that position entails, what tasks they're going to be doing, and what tasks they're not going to be doing as well. So everybody needs to know, so nothing falls between the cracks. And when you're a small company and everything is on your plate, it's like, I don't want to let go. I don't want people to do this. I'm very afraid to let go of these tasks because I'm afraid they're not going to be done in the way that I want them to be done. And they're not going to be done exactly like you would do it. They can't be done because, you're you and I'm me, and we're never going to do the same task in the same way. We have a different personality. But I have to build trust with you. Like if I trust you when I'm hiring you, I trust that you're going to be able to capable of doing this task, and I'll train you how I want it to be done, but it's never going to be done exactly the same, and you have to realize mindset. And I find that small companies, when they're growing, when they're going through this growth spurt, their problem is mainly a mindset problem. It's not that they don't have the talent, that the market is filled with talent these days, especially now, people have been laid off and whatever. The market is full of talent. The problem is communicating what you want and being willing to let go. And I think that's a mindset issue.
Yeah. I would just say, yeah, that's it. And like, I started to think about the talents. Like, talents are really everywhere around us. I even had recorded a video, I think like 2 years ago, like we are in the war for the talents, because talents are everywhere and everybody wants them and everybody wants to get the best one. But you need to fix your inside the organization, your values, your culture, and everything else, so you can attract actually those that are the best.
Oh yeah, those that are the best, but also those that are suitable for your mindset and for your culture, your company culture, your personal culture. For me, I work a different work week. In where I live, we work Sundays through Thursdays. We don't work Fridays and Saturdays. And if a company has a culture where every Sunday, for example, they have this big company meeting, I'm not going to be able to work with them, or they're not going to be, again, somebody who works differently on a different, today things, that's not a good example maybe, but in general, if the company that you're working for has different values, then it's going to be very problematic for you to work there. So you have to find people to work for your company that have the same values, and you have to attract them. And something that I find is that people think they want a certain type of employee, and they'll try and attract that person. And at the end of the day, that person isn't necessarily in tune with your values, and then it's not a good fit. And you have to recognize that before you start working together. You have to recognize that in your definition process, because the problem is with me as a company, that I'm defining who I want and who I want to attract. And if I'm attracting the wrong kind of people, then something in my definition is wrong.
This is something that we're talking about constantly, I think, on this podcast and on some of the others, because those are the things that are actually driving the growth, if you set them right from the start. And it starts with the CEO, with his story or her story, with the mindset, values, and everything. Basically, that's how you grow. You don't try to change people when they come to your organization. You try to attract the right people for you and your organization, depending on where you want to go, where you are now, all those kind of things. But when we got into those topics, you have certain principles that you implement in your life and in your work, and I guess those are the principles that you also implement when you start working with companies. And so let's get a little bit into that. What are some of the core principles? Because I didn't see that on many companies' websites. This is not something that's common for many people or companies, that saying like, okay, these are like 8 or 10 principles that we have, and they guide our life and the way we work.
Right. I think that's, people talk about how the about page on a website is the most important page, or second most important after the home page. And the about page should basically not only just be about who the company founders are and what the, ideally it would also talk about who the perfect client is, right? Because the about page is basically about the client more than about the company. But the about page should also have what are the core values of the company, and what are the principles that guide their work. And I really, when I was building my site, but also when I work with my clients, I tell them, when this is relevant, when this is one of the things we're dealing with, is what are the principles that are guiding you, and what are the kind of people that you want to attract. So I believe in transparency. I believe in full transparency. I believe in open communication, and communication about anything. And when you have open communication, even the rough and hard conversations are easy to have, because you know that when you talk to me, you're going to get the whole truth, and you're going to get it straight. I don't play around. I don't sort of beat around the bush saying, listen, I don't really feel comfortable. This is the problem that I've come up with, that I've encountered. We need to solve it. Or, you know what? I'm going to be late with a deadline. I try and raise the flag as early as possible, because that also comes together with my belief in reliability. You have to be able to rely on me. So even if I'm going to be late, the minute I notice that there's going to be a problem, I'll raise a flag. Or if I'm going to be over budget, or if we're going to be under on something, we're not going to reach our goals. It's fair to fail. I actually believe in failure. I think failures are great stepping stones, but I think you need to raise the flag in advance with enough time so we can fix it as well as we can. That's like one of my principles, the reliability and the transparency. And companies should share what their principles are.
Totally agree. I'm all in for that. I mean, I'm coming from the civil society organization and NGO sector, working with youth and like trying to save villages, youth advocacy, those kind of things. I work a lot with UNICEF in the past, and I'm trying to bring that kind of ethics into marketing, because I think like we are somewhere where we are not supposed to be, doing a lot of unethical things, doing things in a wrong way, basically trying to cheat people to do something. I mean, it's easier to tell your own story than to come up with a story from someone else, someone that you just imagined. And it goes along for all kind of things. Like our mission at Funky Marketing is let's get back marketing where it belongs, one business at a time. And I love talking about those kind of things, about those specific things, because I think if you implement it in each process, each email, in each conversation, it takes things one step at a time towards the goal where you are the company that people believe or trust.
Yeah, I think building integrity in marketing is a tall order today. I think that's something that marketers have to work towards. They have a bad name, they have a bad rep, and sometimes it's justifiable, sometimes it's earned, but often now I think that's changing, or at least the people that I interact with, maybe that's because I'm attracting those people to my life, but are looking to act with more integrity. And I don't want to act, I don't want to work with, oh, it's okay to lie, everybody lies. I don't lie. I don't want to work with people who lie.
Yeah, that's it. I think there was a Ryan Holiday or Seth Godin, which was like, trust me, I'm a liar. And I mean, telling stories is not the same as lying. So, and I think this is topic that we can talk about some other time, but it's also an important topic that we need to talk about. I just realized that now it's gonna be good to create like sort of a panel and invite people and talk about differences between lying and telling stories. It would be a good topic to discuss. But tell me.
Yeah, I think a lot of marketers sort of follow through with their stories in their mind, and it becomes this reality that's just fake.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm totally understanding that people need to sometimes fake it till they make it, because they think that they don't have anything to talk about. But I mean, like, even if you just apply for a job, you didn't get the job, you have something to share for the people that didn't even apply for the job. And it's that simple if you take a look at it. And it's just sharing your story, your journey. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary. I mean, we didn't just become, I don't like the word experts, but professionals in what we do. This is a process. It happens. And especially on LinkedIn, I can see so many people now just deleting all that they have done before, or don't even edit on their profile. So I want, when I go to somebody's profile, I want to see like the whole history of how did they get there, how did they develop the knowledge, the professionalism, the experience. If you just telling me that you are like head of marketing at a company and that's it, how did it happen? Is it actually true that you are working there? Do you actually know what you're doing? And it's simple thing that can really get you far, but not many people are thinking about it. At least I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I think I have an issue with those empty profiles on LinkedIn, especially since there are a lot of scams. I want to see how someone got to it. Far between those are. That's not the norm. And you get to where you are. Your experiences lead you to where you are, and you weren't born that way. And it's fine if this is new, but what you're doing, but what you did before is always going to affect that. I read someone who said, I don't remember their name. They said that they had learned how to program and they were really unhappy about it. And they decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go into copywriting. And they became a copywriter and they started to learn that. And I really celebrated that with them because that's a hard decision to make. But I also think their programming knowledge is going to help them down the road with their copy, because when you know the capabilities, you can help your clients better. And when you see the copy, you can say, you can also do this. It's not copy related, but your knowledge will help your customers later on. So everything is one step above the. It's like, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like when you're building a building, it's one block, one module on top of the next.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm looking at developers. Usually, people are looking at them, and as the people who are not like who are introverts, who like just to put their headphones and code, but developers are actually problem solvers. And that's in the core of what they do. They're not just coding. You give them the problem and they go and solve it. That's why they need their space, and they need to concentrate and actually do those things. And I think that's one of the things that we understood totally different, and they actually mean something else. But I wanted to get back to the topic. I'm realizing that you are talking a lot with how do you use some of the things that you already experience in business, some of the things that you are implementing, also in educating your kids, or other way around. You are seeing some things, some, let's say, unwritten laws that when you are like teaching your kids, and you are implementing that in the business. So let's get a little bit into that topic. I don't have kids of my own, but I have like a nephew, and I'm seeing all those things.
Yeah, so that's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I raise my kids a bit differently than what the norm is, on a number of levels. I've spoken to my kids at eye level from day one, since they were a baby. My daughter was 2 weeks old. I looked her in the eye and I said, there's absolutely no reason for you to wake up in the middle of the night to have milk. And that was it. She slept through the night, which is, that's unique, and that's very, it didn't happen with the other two kids, but but it did work with her. And so I really believe in setting boundaries for your kids and your employees and your clients. And the boundaries are what give us the room to act. If I take the book of Genesis, excuse me, it's so, I love this example. When God said to Adam and Eve, you can eat from anything in the Garden of Eden except for one tree. That one tree is a boundary. The boundary teach them of the plenty that they can have to you in 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And after that, I'm available at whatever hours in the evening. That's it. I don't want you breaking that boundary. If I'm not available between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, that's because I have something. So you have to respect my boundaries, and you have all of the other hours that you can call me. You have all of the other time that you can, contact me. And I always try and give that. I give that to my children, obviously. I give that to my clients. I give that to the people that I work with. They need to know when you're available, but they also need to know when you're not. And they have to respect that boundary. And I find that respect is what makes the communication and what makes the relationship work. When there's mutual respect, and respect is between children and their parents, both ways, as a child and as a parent, I can say that. And it's with your customers and with your team members. And I think the more I respect them and they respect, it goes both ways, but the more there's respect, the more we can cooperate and build something amazing.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you need boundaries so you can grow. You need to set up the way in which you are going. I mean, you cannot go everywhere. I mean, that's also one of the examples that I like to use. I love your example. It shows really the essence of it. You can do everything except just this one thing.
Yeah.
But that one thing is a boundary. It's something where you don't go. You don't do that.
And that boundary is going to teach you what you can do. I was talking about this the other day. Somebody asked me, and maybe you saw it on LinkedIn. I was talking about how I train my employees, how I teach my children. And I have tasks that are my tasks. These are tasks that only I can do. You can't do them. You can't touch them. Those are boundaries. That's a red line. That's mine. And then there are tasks that are your tasks, right? You have to take out the trash. You have to move the laundry from the washing machine to the dryer. You have to upload this post. You can take it from wherever world you want. That's your task. That's your responsibility. You have to make sure that it's working properly. You have to make sure it's done on time. And then there's that middle ground, that gray area. And that gray area is where the magic happens, I find. I think That gray area is where I take things from my red boundaries, right, from my tasks, and I want to pass them over to you. I want to teach you how to do them. And the way I do that is by giving you the tools, teaching you what skills you need in order to perform the tasks. But when you're in that gray area, when you're doing the tasks, you need to know the responsibility that it gets done well and on time. That's on me. That's my responsibility, because you don't know yet. You're still new to this. This is a new task for you. So you get to fail, you get to fall, and you get to feel that it's okay to fail and fall. Because like I said before, those are stepping stones. And then when you feel comfortable enough, or when it's time, when I think that you're comfortable enough, even though you may be scared still, I say, okay, this is now green. This is yours. Go. Just do it.
I love it. I love it that you're teaching me some things that I can implement when I have my own kids. It's
Yeah,
great.
but it also, it's great with kids. I love it with kids, but it works. I actually developed the system as a manager, not as a parent. This is something I was doing with my employees. And I always try and teach 2 steps ahead. So I'm not only teaching what you need now. If I'm teaching you how to load laundry into the washing machine, for example, if I'm teaching you how to post using a scheduling app, then I will teach you the next step. What happens after you do this? Even though that's not your responsibility yet, I will teach you how to do that so that you know where this is going, because understanding the next step helps you understand the current step better, helps you perform the current step in a way that will help me in the next step. And it will also help you grow further along the line.
I can add an example. Like when I was thinking about how I'm gonna grow the team here in Funky Marketing, because I don't want to have like a huge team. I wanted to keep it up, like let's say small, up to 10 people. But I was thinking like, okay, I need somebody who maybe I need a project manager, somebody who will take over a few things from me. But then I realized, okay, I'm doing demand generation, and we are doing a lot of innovative things that not many people can understand and can realize like that fast. So basically, what I would need to do is to explain to that person, the project manager, how it goes, basically to give him or her the task, and then they will go to the team. So I realized, okay, I would do a double job if I do that. And so, okay, I said we're going in a different direction. So I'm trying to add people to my team that can do a lot of things. They can basically do what I can do. So not only the implementation, but also the strategy. And I'm letting them go, creating things, making mistakes. But I'm trying to get them to realize uh, what mistakes are important not to make. So I'm acting as a client, and I'm teaching them what are some things that clients are seeing, and that those are not like maybe small things that they wouldn't realize, but we get it to the bigger level. Small things are also ones that bigger clients are seeing, and it's not like, okay, we can go with that this time. No, you cannot go, because they will see it. And I'm trying to get them into that mindset so they can realize on their own when they're making mistakes, so they can not do that when they realize, okay, this is going to be a mistake, let me do something differently, or let me not send the file or everything that they are doing before I get into it, and get into the mindset of somebody else who's going to look at it, who's the target group, who we are sending it. And so far it's working great, and this is one of the best decisions so far that I've made, not to hire like the project manager, but to teach people in the team how they can do the process on their own.
Yeah, training your employees is a must, especially since you know what you want done and how you want it done. You know what clients are going to see. You know, if that font is a little bit to the left, that's going to look bad. I don't see it maybe, but you will see it, and then the client will definitely see it. So teaching them where to focus is really important. But you also have to put a limit to the training period. I want someone who can learn within X amount of time. And that X can change based on company, based on person, based on where your company's at, like what the urgency is. But we need to make sure that our team members are learning, our employees are learning, and they're learning fast, because you want to let go of that as quickly as you can. You want to move it into their green section as quickly as you can, so that you're free to do what you love to do. So hiring people that are going to do the tasks that either you don't enjoy or that you have too much of and you don't have the time to do, that's wise. Hiring someone to do a task that you're going to have to do anyway, yeah, you don't want to do that.
So I have a question, and it's sort of the topic where people are very different when it comes to answers. And it is, do you hire people who are just like you in the mindset and can do the things that you are doing because now you're the company is good at that? Or do you hire people who are doing some things that you can't do?
That's a great question, but the answer is it depends. It always depends. It depends on what you're hiring them for. If you're hiring because you have more work than you can handle, then you need someone who is exactly in your mindset and can do it exactly the way that you want it. If you're hiring because you have a client that wants something different that you're not capable of providing, then you want someone who has maybe a different mindset. We talked about values before. I think the values are always going to have to be the same. I want someone that is a good communicator. I want someone who is reliable. I want someone, who is responsible. I want someone who believes in teamwork. I'm not going to hire someone who's an individual and works, with the headphones all day and doesn't talk to anyone, even if they're the best at what they do, because I'm going to suffer from that at the end of the day. My company will suffer. But there are certain tasks that I will hire someone who is different if it doesn't make a difference. Like, maybe not, I want someone who's cooperative and collaborative for sure, but I don't need them to have the same skill sets as me. If I want a designer, I work with a designer all the time, and she's great, and she and I have totally different personal values. We view the world through different lenses completely, but we work really well together, and I trust her. I trust her with everything. And when she does something that I don't get design-wise, and I'll say, I like this more, I like this less, and we'll find something that works for both of us. But if she says, listen, this has to be left aligned and not justified, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I'll trust her because that's her skill set. So I differentiate between the professional aspect of what she's doing, where I trust her completely, and the personal aspect where I like round, she likes pointy. Okay, that's, it's a matter of whatever. It all depends on what the client wants at the end anyway. But our values our professional values are very similar, even though our personal values are very different.
Yeah, I mean, there are things like, how do you say, you're not going to marry her. You're just going to do the best job possible with her. And
she's actually one of my best friends. And so it's really interesting, but we're friends despite our differences. We make the differences work in our advantage.
yeah, we have a saying in Serbia, like, not you're not going to marry her, but you're not going to go to, we say kafana, but to the restaurant or club. It's a mix. Kafana is a mix of it. You're not going to do that with her, but I mean, anytime you can sit down and work with her, because on a professional level, she's doing things in a way that you can do it, and it feels good, feel comfortable to work with her. You understand each other. But in private life, okay, maybe like you're not a party person, you're somebody else, and you like some other things, but that doesn't mean that you cannot work well together.
Right, exactly.
One last topic that I want to get into is one of my favorites, and it's email marketing. I've seen that you have a lot of people around you talking about email marketing. You have helped a lot of people, and this is the thing that people always have, like, opposite opinions also. Like, is it email marketing dead? Email marketing lives? How do we do email marketing? Is it we change it, we make it more personal with videos, or we go just with plain text, with those kind of things? So what are you seeing when it comes to email marketing? Let's start with that.
So I deal less with the content of the email marketing. I deal with the capabilities of the tools. Um, the research that I've read is mixed. A lot of research says text people don't want to watch, don't want all the images and videos, especially since now we're all swiping on our mobiles, and who has time to swipe through the images? Just give me the bottom line. But then videos are really hot now, right? That's like the hot topic, and a lot of email service providers are now embedding videos into the email. Um, I really think it depends on what the purpose of your marketing is. Is your marketing campaign for lead generation, or is it for nurturing? There's two different, totally different ideas. And if you're posting or you're emailing to say, hey, I can now do this, and hey, did you know I offer this service, and hey, I offer that service, yeah, probably text or a video that's gonna demo it, not the images and heavy images and whatever. But if you're nurturing, people want content. People want to know. People want to give examples. Like this conversation has a lot of examples that you can then create articles about. And based on these articles, you can just share that with your entire list. People are gonna go, whoa, I needed to know that. And that nurturing is going to lead to it that, yeah, maybe sometime down the road they're going to come to you and say, I want you for my services, right? I want your services. I want to work with you. But the way you build the list and what you write to the list is going to be different depending on what that idea is.
Yeah, totally agree. So tell me, let's talk about systems. I guess that's one of the things that you're doing when it comes to email. How is it different if you are just trying to get more leads compared to if you're trying to nurture those leads and get them to buy something? How do you set up things differently?
So if I'm just nurturing, I can use almost any email for the service provider with the basics. If I'm sending out once a week newsletter, once a month newsletter, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, whatever, any tool can do that. If I'm not basing it on engagement levels, I'm not basing it on open rates or click-through rates or whatever. If I'm selling and I want to integrate my mailing list with my sales processing, like ThriveCart or Member Vault or one of those, or even directly to or Shopify, I want my email service provider to integrate with that seamlessly. I don't want to have to go through a third-party integrator. So if I have PayPal as my payment, which is a bad example because I'm really mad at PayPal right now, but if I have PayPal as my payment processor, I want to know directly within my email service provider when my customer has paid, or when they've abandoned the cart or whatever, so that I could shoot them an email based on an automation saying, thank you for your payment, and please fill out a survey, or we noticed that you abandoned your cart's still full, don't forget, or we saw that you purchased X, why not purchase Y and Z? So that integration is important if you're selling. I find integration with your database and tracking on your site is key, depending on what your site is, but especially if you're an interactive site where people are doing things like they're taking a course or they're watching a webinar. You want, and you're collecting data, you want to be able to email your customers, your users back and say, we saw, not like Big Brother, I saw you watching this, but you think you might be interested based on what they watched. We think you might be interested in A, B, C, D, whatever. And the stronger your tool, the more you can do that. There are tools that are very marketing oriented, like Drip as an email service provider is very, like, when you go into a contact on Drip, you're going to see the revenue. They're giving you numbers right off the bat. Whereas Active Campaign is more customer focused, and they're more about the customer experience, and they're integrating a lot more things natively now. And MailChimp, I think, is great for no one, but for small businesses, a lot of them use it because they have a very good free program. Their free plan is great for exactly that initial sending a one-off email, and then the next one you have to manually create, but you can do it based on data from the first email and stuff like that. So that's the width of it.
um, I'm usually recommending to people not to use MailChimp, but instead to use GetRespond, because I'm seeing it as giving you much better options when it comes to those kind of first automations. And like with one email, you can send like an email sequence to people, and it's really like more visually appealing. You can easily understand everything, especially when you are just starting. But like those are really good examples, and I want to use it to kind of define what personalization means. I want to use what you said. So when it comes to personalization, usually people means that it means using someone's name in the email or in the subject
Yeah.
line or those kind of things. But personalization means using the data that you have uh, from those people and actually giving them the best experience and trying to help them with the data to solve their problem. That's what personalization means. Not like, hey, Irit, that's it. Like I personalize my email. That's
Yeah. It's a lot more than the name, and it's not necessarily even content based. So I would differentiate between segmenting based on the data, which makes the email personal in that I'm sending it to a specific segment on my list, and I'm a huge believer in segmentation. You know, if you've read in the past, if you show no interest, you're going to be that first sentence of, you know, maybe this will interest you. Or, you know, I noticed that you register, but you don't participate. Don't worry, we're sending you a reporting, and someone who time you'll want to register. So that's one level of personalization. But another level is, and that personalization is based on segmentation. But another level of personalization is within the content, and it's more than just your first name or your company name, right? It's based on the data. I saw, like, again, in a company that I was working with, in their database, we knew that they had completed, let's say, 5 steps of a 10-step process. And we knew exactly what steps. So we would send them an email, and it would say, you know, we noticed that you completed 5 of the 10 steps. You have until whatever date the coupon is done, you know, you have until December 1st to complete it, and here's your next step. And that can be completely automated, and they won't even know it's automated because the tools. I use ActiveCampaign, and that and there are heavy plans that within the email you can customize. So you have one large email. You're segmenting sections within the email. You're segmenting words within sections based on custom fields. So that email basically looks like variable and variable, but variable. And you know, when you're looking at it, you don't know what the email says, but when it puts together the email, it doesn't sound canned. It sounds totally real. It sounds like a real person. And yet you've still automated it in such an amazing way that you've saved yourself so much time.
this is really great example. Thanks for explaining it into the way you did. I'm laughing because you reminded me of a problem that we had here in Serbia. Basically is trying to pronounce the name and to change it based on a person, if it's like a female or a male. And female recipients were getting mad because sometimes we cannot do it. So what we needed to do is like go in the spreadsheet and change the name manually. When we add it to the email, it sounds totally different. But it's like those are small things that can give you a huge headache when you
Yeah, but imagine if you had a custom field saying female, right? if you had a custom field and you would just mark it in your email automation saying female, and then you would segment and say, if it's female, use this pronunciation. If that field is female, you don't have to go manually. It's a field that's automatically updated when you enter a person, a new contact, and that's it. It's a one-off, and it's forever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is how you enter the person wrong. This is this example, but
Yeah.
I totally agree, and I'm really like glad we're discussing these things. It's been a while since I've been talking about all those kind of different things. I remember when we were doing like the website personalization, and we were using right message, I think, yeah, for this. And basically what it does, it when you comes to the specific website, based on where did you come from, so is the link in the email, or it's an ad, or it's something else, basically it's the system knows what you're interested in, which product or which services, and it changes the whole layout of the website changes. So it's the different headline, different video or picture, different testimonials, different CTA. You can change all kind of things, and it's totally personalized. And I remember at the time the goal was to like increase the conversions by 15%. We managed to do it by 45%. And
wow.
it was like the guy told us like, wow, man, you really did it. It was like, I don't know, some kind of product for the pool cleaning, and they had like 80 locations. So when you implement that into that kind of data, it really shows in the revenue, in the conversions, because you're giving them a personalized experience. And like it's not the same when you are like buying you say a pump for the pool, or buying something just to cover the pool. It's totally different things. And basically if you have the same picture, they wouldn't imagine all those things. And when it comes to like testimonials and all the other things, it changes completely the way they see, and it changes their experience.
Yeah, you want testimonials that are also culturally in the same idea. So you want someone who's going to, if you know that this person likes, based on whatever knowledge that you have, first of all, language, you could do the testimonials in the same language that you want, so it makes it more accessible to them. And in the same field, the same, same neighborhood maybe, so that maybe they know them and they can give them a call. There's so much you can do with big data today, and not even big data, just any data. As long as you know, you need to collect it, and there's no such thing as too much data. Collect the data and then segment based on the data. Analyze it, know what you've got in your hand, and use that to personalize the experience.
And things that I'm seeing, it's good that you said analyze the data, because when we are trying to make companies create personas now, especially in B2B, first of all, they think that companies are their target person. I mean, it's a company, it's an object, and there are some people working there, and you need specific people from that company. And when we move past that, we're trying to get as many informations they can, like what media are they consuming, what books are they reading, where are they going, are there some events, like all those small things that seems insignificant, but when you use it for the targeting and to actually get into conversation with those people, it changes completely. But the mistakes they're making is like, let's use all that data at once. Like we will create a persona and use all of it. No, I mean, it can be 3 different buying personas per one product, and it can be like 3 products per one buying persona. It all depends on the product, on the services, on everything. And those are the things that needs to be understood. You need to know to have the information, but then you have to be smart about using the information. Not like using all the data that you have at once, but be smart about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And building that persona is so important. And yeah, you should have more than one persona, because if you have more than one, your audience is different. So for example, in my business, I have 3 or 4 different types of small businesses that I want to work with. So there's a persona for each based on what they do, who their clients are, what their possible workflow is, what tools they need. Going to need a different set of tools than a copywriter is, right? So you need to know that, and you need to have the ability to match your marketing for those personas.
And this is basically the start of the automation. You cannot automate things that you don't know about, that you don't have like the foundation set up. And this is also the mistake people are always making, like, let's automate this. Do you have enough data? Do you have enough information? Because basically automation is not like, I'm gonna make this person do this. Automation means that we are giving people the choice to choose their own way of buying the product or the service.
Yeah, automation, I would actually also connect it to the beginning of our conversation, and that is, what is the workflow you want your client to go through? What is the flow that you expect? People call it the funnel, but it's a lot more than the funnel, that's one of my problems with Get Response, is that it's very funnel based. But with Active Campaign or Drip, it goes everywhere based on customer behavior, based on customer response, based on different, like, weather, based on the time of day in your time zone is going to be different than in my time zone. So maybe I could do different things. You need to understand that every single person at the end of that funnel, at the end of that automation, is a person. It's a real live person, and they behave differently, and you want to make it as personal as possible, that like the experience as personal as possible for them.
Great. For the end, we are getting close to the end. I usually ask my guests do you have a specific topic, a specific thing, or something you want to say for the end, something that we may have missed? We talk about so many things, and I'm glad that we covered so much, but do you have something to say to the audience for the end?
Oh, I didn't think of anything. No, I think we covered a lot of ground, and I think it's very important. I think people need to think things through a little bit more. People shouldn't just jump in. I mean, I'm all for jumping and doing. I do before I think a lot of times. But then refine your process. You've done it, you've jumped in, you've done. Now take one step back and say, let's look at the process. Is it working? Look at the automation. Look at the campaign. Is it working? And don't wait for the end to do that. Do it every so often. Do it every couple of days, weeks, months, years, whatever, based on the automation and the process. But do it every so often and make sure, and refine, constantly refine. Don't be afraid of refining and changing. And yeah, you'll break things along the way, but you'll also build things.
Yeah, breaking something, it doesn't mean it's the end. It may be
Right.
just a beginning and the new and better one.
Yeah.
Great, that's a great story. Great story for the end. Irit, thanks for doing this with me. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed. Talk to you next week with another episode of Funky Marketing Podcast.